Hey there guys, I've got a quick video today on a new little orange sparkly device that I have recently put on my pedal board. I want to tell you what it is and what it does and why it's freaking awesome. So what you're looking at there on the bottom of the screen is the Disaster Area DMC-3XL Gen2. Before I go into what this is, I'll tell you what it isn't. It's not a pedal, really. There is no signal going in and out of it. It's not part of my signal chain. What it is it's actually a MIDI controller, and it is doing things to both my Timeline and my BigSky, which you see up at the top there. And I want to show you why this thing is awesome. And not only that, I want to try to give you some ideas on how you can use little devices like this to get more out of pedals that you currently have, and also just to tell you about the awesome stuff that Matt from Disaster Area is doing. He's doing some very cool stuff. So what this does mainly, the big reason I bought this pedal was because this controller really is because I wanted to be able to control banking on both the Timeline and the BigSky. Obviously, if you have a Timeline, you know that the normal way to do banking is to like press these two buttons at the same time and it's a bank up, and these two is a bank down, and it's the same on the BigSky. And that's not easy to do in a live situation, and that's the way I've been doing it for a while, and it kind of limits me. It doesn't make me want to change banks very much. So on the Timeline, you get 2 presets per bank. On the BigSky, you get 3. I wanted to open that up a little bit. So as you can see, it says A there on the Disaster Area, and that just means that's the bank control for the Timeline. So I can scroll through the banks here. You can see now I'm banking up 38, 39, and then I can go back down 37, right? So that's pretty straightforward, and then you just choose the preset you want there, right? And that's very cool. It makes it way easier to get presets. So that's great. Already right there, it's pretty useful. But the other cool part about this, and I'm pretty sure this is only possible in this Gen 2 version of the DMC3, if I press this top button here, I move to B mode, which now that's giving me control over banking on the BigSky. And I hope you can see the little LED at the top there, but I'm just gonna bank up a couple. Right now it's on 29, we're going to 30, 31, and then back down, right? So it's the same concept, and it makes it way easier to control both these devices now. So that's pretty cool. And actually the way it works, I haven't talked about how this is connected, but there's a MIDI cable coming from the back of the DMC3. It's going into my Timeline, and then I'm actually going from another MIDI cable out of the Timeline into the BigSky. So these can kind of cascade, which is pretty sweet. And it's really easy to set up. Matt makes it easy with the instructions to tell you what to do. I had to set my Timeline to MIDI channel 1 and the BigSky to MIDI channel 2, so the Timeline ignores anything on channel 2, which those controls are meant for the BigSky, and vice versa, right? So and it's also very easy there's a menu system on the DMC3 that allows you to turn on controls for the BigSky, turn it off. You can actually control 3 devices, the Timeline, the BigSky, and the Mobius, and you can also do a ton of other stuff. You can control the Eventide H9, the time factor, pitch factor, all that stuff, and even stuff like a whammy, almost anything that takes a MIDI input, and does, patch preset changes with MIDI. You can hook it up to do something with this. So right there, that's very cool capability from this pedal, but there's even more. So like I said, this little top button scrolls through the different modes on this controller. The mode after this is actually controlling the looper on the Timeline. So I will show you what that is. So if it's not clear already, that top button moves through modes on the controller, and the left and right buttons actually do the work, do the things you want to do. So this is the looper mode. I'll show you a little bit what it works. The left button can start recording, and then I'll show you from there. All right. now I've got that loop going. I can like restart it with this. And if I hold down that button, it stops the loop. If it's playing and I press that left button again, that means I can overdub on top of that. So that's very cool. There's even more though. If I'm playing this loop, I can move into this next mode, which is control over the looper, and I can go halftime with that button, and I can go reverse with the other one. So that's pretty sweet. And then the last mode here is actually level control. So I can hold this down. Basically, I'm turning the volume of the loop down. So that's like almost all the way off. And then I can bring it back up. Cool. So then I can scroll back around to this mode and stop it. You know, even I can go back to banking, you know, start doing stuff with the timeline, but then come back and the loop is still there, right? Because it's just, all it is controlling the timeline, and that stuff is still stored in there. So that's pretty cool. And the reason this is cool, because look at how small that device is. What is it doing? It's controlling my timeline. It's making it easier to do banking on the timeline. It's making it easier to do banking on the BigSky, and it's giving me access to the looper, which, as far as I was concerned, was never useful live with the way, because you have to like hold down the tap button and then do some stuff and then exit looper mode to be able to do the delay stuff again. This just like brings in a whole new, you know, way to use the pedal. You know, I never actually thought to use the looper on the timeline before until I got this. And now it's way cool for just a really fast, simple loop that if you want to just, you know, do something weird, you know, halftime it, reverse it. It almost gets it to the fabled ease of use of the looper on the DL4, which is still one of my favorite little looper guys. So that's pretty much it in terms of the capability of the controller itself. Like I said, you can program it to do more. You can actually turn off modes. If you don't care about the looper, you can turn those off and it can only be bank selection. You can turn off just like the level control of the looper if you don't, you know, if you just want to not have to scroll through those sort of modes anymore. The last thing I want to say is that there are some other inputs on the back of the DMC. There's a expression input, so you can have like a tap controlling the timeline, and you could do a bunch of stuff with it. Apparently, you can have a momentary switch that will control the freeze on the BigSky, which is awesome. So there's a bunch of stuff you can do there. There's also a USB input on the back, which this was one of my initial concerns when I talked to Matt about these, because I, like when I was on tour with Future Forestry, I had my timeline hooked up to my computer, which obviously took up that MIDI port. So I was like, is there any way I can have this controller but not take up the MIDI port so I can still do control with my computer if I wanted? And this is his solution. Not that he did it because of me, he just did it because he is into doing cool, innovative stuff. But so I can plug USB directly from my computer into this little box. It's right on the back, right here. And the computer recognizes it as a MIDI device, and I can send signals that way. So I don't even need a MIDI, USB hub. This essentially is the MIDI USB hub. I can send clock signal now to the timeline and to the BigSky. I can send program change messages to change stuff for different song presets and not have to touch my pedal. So this is awesome. It adds functionality to my pedals. It doesn't get in the way of functionality that I had before. And look at how small and pretty it is. It's just great. So, and you know, if you don't have a timeline, if you don't have a BigSky, and for some reason you've watched this far into the video, you know, Matthew makes far more products than just this DMC3. There are bigger MIDI controllers that do more, and there are even devices that combine kind of a looper, but you know, like a true bypass looper, combines that functionality with MIDI functionality. So you can set up like crazy stuff, like when you press this button, it turns on these 3 analog pedals you have and this one certain preset on your MIDI pedal. There's just kind of like infinite possibility with the stuff that Matt has on his website, and that's at disasterarea it's on the pedal there, disasterareadesign.com. And you know, if you end up picking something up from him, tell him I sent you, because I really like what he is doing. And I feel like he's coming out with new stuff like so fast and has new ideas, and they're all really cool. Like he's got some Ableton controllers for people who use Ableton, and it's all just really, really cool stuff. And it's not like cool, like weird, like not useful. It's all very useful. And I'm sure if you just check out his website, you'll find a number of products that'll be like, wow, that would really help my pedal board and help me use my stuff better. So that's pretty much it. I really love this guy. And, you know, just like anything, it takes a little bit of getting used to figuring out, you know, which mode does what and where you need to be. It's kind of like, I kind of liken it to, you know, when you first learn how to use a volume pedal. It's kind of weird at first, but then once you get used to it, you know it really well, and you end up really depending on it. So that's kind of where I am with this, and really encourage, especially if you've got a Timeline or a BigSky or the Eventide Factor pedals or an H9, this can really help you use that pedal better, I promise. And it won't cost you that much to do it, because these are well worth the price that Matthew's charging. So anyways, consider looking at his stuff that he's got there. I know that a lot of people could really benefit from what he has there, and I've really benefited from this. So anyways, that's it. If you want to come talk to me about this more, do it at reverbnerds.com. There's a link at the description on this video, and I will talk to you there. That'd be fun. All right, and go visit Matthew at disasterareadesigns designs plural disasterareadesigns.com and check out what he's got. I know you like it. All right, talk to you guys later. See ya.